Graham Matthews, Bleacher Report, fan cited daily DDT. My man, how you doing?
Doing well, Mr. Randy Cruz. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Always a pleasure to have you. We're doing this live Friday, January 17th. You're watching live on X, Twitter, YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Cruise Control Podcast. Follow my man Graham at Russell Rant from Bleacher Report, fan cited. Myself, Randy J. Cruz, RENDY, letter JCRUZ. The podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on Amazon Music. Go to again, youtube.com/Cruise Control Podcast. Go ahead, download, rate, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Show some love and support for your boys on the program. Again, we're doing this live, so anybody got some questions or feedback for Graham and I on the show, we'll read them on the show. So yeah, we got SmackDown tonight. My boy Kenny and I should be doing a show after SmackDown if time is on our side. We'll do that tonight. You joined us last week for the Raw premiere on Netflix. So it was good to kind of have you at nighttime, Graham. I always get you with the sun is shining and stuff like that. It was a nice time having you on last week.
It was a nice 3-man booth discussing the Raw Netflix premiere. Hey, listen, the stars are out for the Raw premiere, which means I gotta pull up too. Which I'm just kidding. But listen, it was a fun time. It was a good time talking. One of the biggest shows of all time. Maybe not necessarily one of the best, but definitely one of the biggest shows that WWE's ever done in terms of viewership. And yeah, definitely have to do it again sometime.
And listen, we had some numbers that night. I think as of today, probably 800 plus. That may not sound like a lot to most people.
No, that's crazy.
I'll take 100. I'll take 800.
Yeah, that's it, dude. That's the power of pro wrestling. I think. What's the expression? A rising tide rises all ships, or whatever. So,
that's right.
Yeah, so it's good shit. I'm glad we're able to do that.
Again, you're watching live. Any questions, feedback for us? You're watching live on YouTube and Twitter, X, all that good stuff. And let us know. So yesterday. Again, we got SmackDown tonight, but I think the big news from yesterday was the new partnership between the WWE and TNA. So I saw the links and all that, but I did not get a chance to thoroughly read everything through. So Graham, break it down to me as like I'm 5 years old.
So basically, it's just making official what we already knew and what was already happening between NXT. So they put out the press release, WWE did, as did TNA, saying they've officially formed a working relationship, which would have been unfathomable even a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, 10, especially 15 years ago, with the roster TNA had at the time. But it first kind of came to fruition last summer when NXT first formed the working relationship. We've seen a number of TNA stars on NXT programming, from the then Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace. Joe Hendry even headlined a NXT PLE late last year. We had the Rascals reunion going on in NXT, and a number of NXT names also appearing in TNA. Not quite to that same caliber. It was kind of more undercard people, but they were also using undercard talent from NXT on TNA television. So
didn't Mickey come in the Rumble part of TNA, or she?
So that was she was in TNA. She was the Knockouts Women's World Champion to that point. I mean, that was before this working agreement was. That was a one-off at that point. That was when Vince was still here. That was when Scott D'Amore was still running TNA. So two totally different regimes.
Yeah.
But Vince isn't here anymore, and Scott D'Amore isn't running TNA. But they still managed to work something out. I mean, Jordynne Grace was actually in the Rumble last year as the Knockouts Women's World Champion as well. And what was cool about that was that the Mickey thing was awesome. They announced that in advance, and that was also surreal in its own right. But she had obviously been in WWE before. Jordynne Grace was a complete unknown to the WWE universe by and large. A lot of people did not know who she was. If you only strictly watch WWE, especially if you only watch WWE and even AEW, you probably don't know who Jordynne Grace is. But she went in there and had a great showing as the Knockouts champion. So she's probably WWE bound as soon as the Rumble, honestly. And not just because she's in TNA. It sounds like her contract in TNA is indeed expiring like this weekend. So she could be in WWE full-time by the end of the month, if not early February. So yeah, the working relationship between the two companies is cool. They've already been doing it. This just kind of puts pen to paper, and they said it's like a 5-year deal. They did, just to emphasize, put in the press release that it is, they mentioned many times, it's not exclusively, but it's largely between TNA and NXT. They didn't say anything about Raw and SmackDown. So I don't want people tuning into SmackDown tonight for those who care anyway, expecting to see Joe Hendry pop up on the show. Whatever. That's probably not happening. They did say select WWE PLEs. Now, could that mean the NXT PLEs? I took that to mean that we could see like a Joe Hendry. I just go to him because he's one of the most popular performers in the Royal Rumble on February 1st. Totally possible, or February 2nd, whatever it is. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what form this takes. I don't need to see Dolph Ziggler, now Nick Nemeth in TNA, he's the world champion over there, back in WWE anytime soon. I don't really necessarily need to see that, but I think it can be beneficial, and hopefully WWE just doesn't use this as an opportunity to scoop up all of TNA's talent, which is kind of what AEW has done with New Japan in the last couple of years. For all the cool matches we've got out of that, they've also taken Will Ospreay, Okada, Jay White, Kota Ibushi, Yasuhiro Kawada, without really giving them anyone in return. So hopefully this isn't a repeat of that.
I'm as I'm learning everything you're saying. So NXT only, we don't expect like Randy Orton to pop on a fucking TNA. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but you know what would be cool? John Cena doing a match there as part of his retirement tour. Definitely not going to happen, but that would be cool though.
That would be something. Hey John, if you're gonna go all out world tour, hey, do a TNA spot. You know what I'm saying?
That'd be crazy.
I mean, it. Why do you think it happened? Number one, and why do you think it's happening now?
I think, well, first of all, different regime. I know it first started last summer. This was within the months of Triple H first taking over full time as head of creative, and this is something that you would have never seen in Vince McMahon's WWE. Now, I know he allowed Mickie James to be in the Rumble a couple of years ago while she was in TNA, but that was more so just to pad out the Women's Rumble. They didn't really have the roster at that point to fill 30 spots in a Women's Rumble, so they called upon an alum who just so happened to be in TNA at that point, and that was a cool Forbidden Door type moment. I think WWE is willing to work with other promotions if they are not a direct competitor. I saw a tweet under the WWE announcement that said, you're 15 years too late. This would have been so much cooler back in like 2009, 2010. They didn't acknowledge TNA back then because they were an actual competitor. Was TNA going to ever dethrone WWE? Of course not. But TNA in 2009, 2010 had AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, Sting, Jeff Hardy. The list goes on and on. Their roster was stacked. Not that they don't have a great roster now, but the real competitor that they're dealing with, again, competitor, quote unquote, their number one competitor is AEW. That is why when Penta debuted on Monday's Raw, they referred to him as a former TNA world champion, which he is, Impact world champion, and even fucking Lucha Underground champion, which has never been mentioned before on WWE television, but not an AEW tag team champion because they are a direct competitor. They do not want to give them any exposure. Even in Triple H's WWE, that has not changed. They will mention New Japan, Ring of Honor, even TNA, Lucha, whatever. They'll never mention AEW, at least not right now. I know they did that one time years ago, but like in modern times, they haven't, and they probably won't until AEW drops down the ladder a little bit more, and they know they're not a threat anymore, and they can reference them on TV. So to answer your question.
Yeah. So now with the Rumble, pretty much like a couple weeks away.
2 weeks away from tomorrow, yeah.
2 weeks. Rumble. I think next week is Saturday night main event. So it's a lot of events coming up down the pipeline. What superstars do you happen to see in the forefront that could pop up in the Rumble?
For like surprise entries or just in general?
Yeah, from the TNA side, that could pop. Okay. Because I asked because I just seen like a whole bunch of Jeff Hardy stuff on YouTube, and he'd been making the rounds, and he said he had this thought or a dream that possible him and CM Punk could go at it one more time, and he's wearing a fucking TNA shirt in the interview, like, oh, okay, and then all of a sudden, boom, they get a partnership, like, oh, okay, so now like a Jeff and Matt Hardy boys is more likely to come back at a certain point, but is it that point early enough as the Rumble?
It could be. I don't think so. I mean, like I said, this working relationship, I know they made it official yesterday, which was interesting timing because the Rumble's in a couple weeks, and TNA also has a pay-per-view this weekend, on Sunday, actually. So it is interesting. Maybe we'll see some NXT people on that show. I would be surprised, honestly, if they didn't put at least one TNA star, probably a female, in the Women's Rumble in a couple of weeks. I feel like the men's slots are always filled, even with alumni from WWE specifically. I would say as far as names that could pop up in the Rumble, I keep going back to Joe Hendry. He's one of their most popular performers, if not their most popular performer. He was like a viral sensation at one point about a year ago. Isn't quite at that height anymore because they booked him to lose and all this other sort of stuff. But, this weekend he challenges the former Dolph Ziggler and Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship. And honestly, the more I think about it now, he had an opportunity at their WrestleMania, their Bound for Glory in October, and he lost, which was kind of dumb. But the more I think about it, I'm thinking they probably did that on purpose so they could have him win the championship so he can walk into the Rumble as the champion. Now, obviously, you could have had him as the champion in October and still hold it until January and go into the Rumble as champion, but whatever. I think there's a decent chance Joe Hendry could be in the Rumble because he's a TNA guy. The NXT audience is already familiar with him. He was on USA Network, and he's now the TNA champion, or hopefully will be as soon as Sunday. Dolph, absolutely fucking not. I have no interest in that at all. But to me, the top two names are two names are Joe Hendry and Jeff Hardy. I mean, the Hardy Boys, whether they're with TNA or not, will inevitably be back in WWE. I don't know if it's one more run or if it's one more match, whether it's with TNA or not, like whether it's part of this relationship or not. They might just leave TNA when their contracts are up later on this year or whenever, and then come back to WWE. But if Jeff Hardy's in the Rumble, that would be pretty fucking cool. As far as mixing it up with Punk, would they do it in this year's Rumble? I'm not expecting it, but, stranger things have happened, and I think it's totally a possibility. As far as one more feud, going off of his comments that he made, Jeff Hardy's comments.
Yeah.
That I don't see that happening. I just do not see that happening. He specifically said that he would want to be a heel for a feud with a babyface CM. That is absolutely in no fucking reality actually happening. Because especially at this stage of his career, the Hardy Boys are so beloved by a wide majority of wrestling fans. No one will boo this man. He wouldn't, honestly, even if he turned heel a couple of years ago, which I would have been interested to see, because I think heel Jeff Hardy in TNA once upon a time was actually pretty fucking cool. I was a big fan of that. Honestly, it didn't even really work then, let alone now. I just don't feel like people would boo him. If you had the roles reversed and Punk was a heel again, as he was in 2009 when they last feuded, that would be pretty cool. Again, I'm not expecting it. I feel like they're not going to waste CM Punk's few matches left. Not few matches, but like he's not working every pay-per-view. CM Punk only has a select few feuds that he's doing in the next couple of years. They're probably not going to waste one. And on an aging Jeff Hardy, if anything, I think Jeff Hardy would be back in the company as a tag team guy. But again, I think seeing them interact at least one more time would be pretty fucking cool for old time's sake, for nostalgia reasons and whatnot.
Our boy Noob, heck, they even mentioned the NWA during Cody Rhodes AJ Styles match at one point. So I mean,
yeah, they're not a competitor, so they'll mention them. Yeah,
that's how long you don't mention AEW.
Seriously, I can see Hunter saying in their ears,
anybody except AEW. Listen, we have to start with the Nick Nemeth Dolph slander. I think that if Nick Nemeth is still champion, let's just, I mean, what? Again, it's only NXT. So the NXT champion is Oba, right? Femi, right now?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't think Dolph / Nick will get a pop coming in as a TNA champion against the NXT champion? You don't think?
Of course he will in the Rumble?
No, just in general, like we know he's going to be a part of this thing going on with this partnership. So just him coming back for a one-off or in the Rumble or like just popping up on NXT, TNA champion against our champion, I think the pop will be crazy.
Yeah, of course it would. Of course he'd get a pop because the WWE fans haven't seen him in a while. He's a notable name, and it's also the idea that he's with TNA, but he's appearing in WWE. So of course it would get a reaction. I'm not saying it wouldn't get a reaction, but Dolph was in WWE for what felt like 1,000 years. And he was there for so long, dude. He was there for so long that he actually is already a former NXT champion. He already did the NXT run a couple of years ago. We've already seen this shit before. We've seen him in the NXT arena. We've seen him win the NXT championship. Obviously, we haven't seen him against Oba Femi. But, like, it's not as if he's been gone for even 2 years. He got fired or was released, let go. He left on his own terms, whatever you want to call it, in only September of 2023. That was just over 15, 16 months ago. Like, it's not as if he's been gone for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. He's like, honestly, if he showed up tomorrow with the Here Comes the, not even as Nick Nemeth or with his TNA music, if he showed up with his old WWE music, it would feel like he's been with the company the whole time and he's just been off TV. And it's the same old Dolph Ziggler nonsense. At least right now, I would say absolutely not. I don't know what his thoughts are on that, but I just feel like it's way too soon to be seeing Dolph Ziggler back on WWE TV.
Yeah. Mick, what's up, man? Appreciate you watching. Thank you for the support. Noob, I don't want AJ Francis back in NXT.
I'd rather see AJ Francis make a one-off appearance than Dolph Ziggler currently. So that's just nothing against Dolph, but that's just how it is.
I got an interesting question about this TNA thing. Just gotta say before I forget it. We would agree that AJ Styles is like Mr. TNA, right?
Mm-hmm. I would say so.
And we haven't seen AJ in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because he's injured, or remind me why has he been out so long?
So we had that feud with Cody Rhodes last spring, early summer over the WWE title, and he lost those matches. He was off TV after that for creative reasons. They had nothing for him, basically. I don't know if they don't want to admit that, but basically they had nothing for AJ, so he was just off the show, vacationing, I don't know, whatever the fuck. And then they brought him back, I think either late September, early October. And it was like, all right, cool. They're going to use this guy for the first time in 4 months. His first match back on SmackDown a few months ago against Carmelo Hayes, he got legit hurt. And I think he was supposed to get kayfabe hurt, but he actually got like legitimately hurt. He was both faking an injury and actually selling a real injury. And he provided an update on Twitter, I think a week ago, saying that, it's a pretty not devastating injury. It was a foot injury, I believe, or an ankle injury. Which doesn't sound like that big of a deal. I think he actually already had an ankle injury. I don't know. It's a leg injury. It's something like that. But it's such a rare injury that it's really difficult to come back from. Even the smallest injuries, honestly, will take a long time to come back from. CM Punk has talked about this. He broke his foot or something like that in AEW, and he was out for a while, and it was a tough comeback, he said. So basically, that's AJ's injury status. He's also older, so it's going to take longer, and he's more injury prone at this point and whatnot. And there's been no update on when he could be back. I don't think it's going to be in the Rumble. I feel like he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. He sounds like, based on the comment he made on Twitter a week or two ago, he's going to be out for a while longer. And he's already been out for like 3 or 4 months. So that really sucks. Hopefully he is back at some point. I would love to see him back in TNA making a one-off appearance. The report was a couple months ago that TNA wanted to induct him into their Hall of Fame, which makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't they? Because he is Mr. TNA, like you said. But he also made it public, and he confirmed this, that he doesn't want to go into any Hall of Fame while he's still active as a performer. I don't think that should rule out him appearing on a TNA show, whether it be wrestling or just doing a one-off or whatever the fuck. I feel like that'd be awesome. It's just not in the cards right now because he is currently hurt.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, with now this new partnership, how do they involve or get AJ Styles involved? Because he is Mr. TNA. Does he, obviously, I would like to think he would wrestle in a TNA ring at some point when it's all said and done, certain rivalries and matchups, and if it's not the regular 4-sided ring, the 6 octagon, whatever you fucking call it, just do a nice callback for AJ when it's all said and done. So I'm thinking what did they do with AJ with this thing going up? But now you're telling me he's out with a legit foot injury that could be a few more months.
Yeah, it sounds like he might be out for a while, which really sucks. But it's fine. I mean, listen, the TNA partnership is not like for this month only or for the Rumble or for the next 6 months. They wrote specifically in the press release that this wasn't an indefinite thing. They said it is to an extent, but they specifically said in the press release it's going to last 5 years. I mean, that's a long time. Why would you specifically say it's going to last 5 years if they were just going to get bored with it and move on from it in the coming months or the coming weeks or whatever? So if AJ comes back, hopefully healthy, and he can compete, then they can do the match. He sounds like he's probably toward the end of his in-ring run as well. I don't know if he's going to retire this year like John Cena is. We got enough wrestling retirements in 2025. I would save it until next year, which is going to suck because AJ still can very much go even at this stage of his career. But, hopefully at least one more time we can get him back in the TNA ring. And I would not completely say that's out of the realm of possibility. It's not likely because this does kind of involve NXT specifically.
Yeah.
But it's not completely impossible either.
Damn, AJ gonna be done, bro? It's gonna be a wrap for AJ?
I mean, to be honest, let me look it up. He's what?
He's got to be
47 at this point?
Yeah, mid-40s at least. 45.
He's 47, 48 this year.
And I was watching the Jeff Hardy thing yesterday. He said he's 47. I'm like, damn, bro.
Where's the time go? I know.
Jeff Hardy 47, bro. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the Hardy boys are probably, they probably got a couple years. I think to say a couple years would be generous. I love the Hardy boys. I'm just saying as far as their last real run, they're in it right now. I feel like what they're doing they could have another run in WWE, but not like wrestling every week. They'd probably have to do select PLEs or at least one more match or something. They're winding down. AJ's winding down, seeing his retirement year. Goldberg should have retired a decade ago, but he's having his final match this year, we know. And yeah, all these icons are winding down in the next couple of months, years, and that's
Crazy.
the reality of it. Yeah, and Orton's still going strong. Orton's as old as these guys, and he's going to probably be wrestling for the next fucking 10 years. So that's
Orton,
at least that's news.
Orton's going to go to 50. I feel it.
Seriously. At least, if not longer. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? That'd be a nice little cool callback. Like, it's way off topic, but like, with the New Day and like if Biggie can't wrestle, you know what? I got a tag team for y'all to take you guys out. And boom, Hardy's come out.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
That could be something. It could be totally possible. I'm still hoping that Big E is back in the Rumble. I'm not saying he will be. I'm not expecting it, but I think there's a possibility that they did the New Day angle when they did because Big E could be back in the Rumble because they're revolving this entire heel turn around Big E. So
yeah,
I feel like it would be weird to do that, but not have him come back at some point and then have him be back in the Rumble to kind of take it easy at first and then work towards a triple threat or a singles match at Mania would be the way to go. But that's assuming he's even remotely cleared, and all indications are, unless they've been keeping it in the dark, which they should if it is the case, that he's not even anywhere close to being cleared. So I guess we'll find out in due time.
I got a question. It may sound a little weird, but do you think the partnership now with TNA is something similar or different than what it was back in the day with the okay, it wasn't like an official partnership, but like what they did with ECW back in the day?
Yeah.
So it's something like that, but the TNA is going to be more than that ECW shit back in the day.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I mean, I wasn't watching back then, so I can't say for sure whether it's exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's different, honestly, because the ECW partnership, I'm not sure how long that lasted, but ECW got exposure on their flagship show. And to our knowledge, a lot of this is just going to revolve around NXT, which, I mean, it still does, 500, 600, 700,000 viewers. So it's not like it's nothing. They get 7, 8 times, 9 times the viewership that fucking TNA does. But they're not on Raw. So honestly, I feel like the ECW one, did we see a lot of big time WWE? I mean, yeah, I think it's comparable because I don't think WWE put a lot of their big stars in ECW. They did have some people cross over, but I don't think Stone Cold Steve Austin, while he was in WWE, was over in ECW or, I remember some people, like I've just from shit that I've seen, some people crossing over. It's like the TNA NXT thing. The WWE company is bigger. NXT is much bigger than TNA. So they're going to bring in TNA's bigger stars, but NXT's smaller stars over to TNA. I hope they can bring some of their bigger stars like a Trick Williams or an Obafemi can show up at some point in TNA. I don't know how likely that is. WWE doesn't really gain anything from that, but it should be an even level partnership. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this, honestly, based on the press release for the NXT thing, it kind of sounds like they're using this. TNA is like an additional developmental branch for them to where, for a couple of different reasons. One, any of their talent, if they pop up in NXT and WWE likes what they sees, they can then scoop up that talent, which doesn't really benefit TNA at all in that sense. But but like Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace especially, definitely both are WWE bound in the coming months, year, whatever.
Okay.
And two, and then NXT can send their, lesser experienced and seasoned stars, like the NIL talent and stuff like that. Those people that aren't really on NXT TV a whole lot, they can go over to TNA for further exposure and experience, which is what they've been doing for the last 6 or 7 months. So I think it kind of helps in that sense. The Raw and SmackDown people really don't gain anything from going over to TNA. It's awesome for the fans, but they don't really, WWE doesn't gain anything. TNA gains something, but hopefully that should be the point. Hopefully once in a while they can't do that. I think with the ECW thing, it was kind of similar where I feel like they kind of sent some of their lower level stars over to ECW for further experience and exposure, and they weren't being used in WWE television at the time. So it's similar in some respects, but not in other respects, because like the ECW talent were on Raw. TNA guys are not going to be on Raw. They might be in the Rumble, but they're not going to be on fucking Raw and SmackDown. They don't need them on Raw. They have enough talent as it is right now.
My last question about TNA. Because I saw it last night, some people were saying like a theory, like, hey, that right now you could say AEW is number 2, right? But now with this partnership, do you think now that Triple H and them is collaborating with TNA to maybe build them up to be the number 2 and go over AEW? Or do you still think no matter what, AEW is number 2?
AEW, no matter what, is number 2. I mean, their attendance is far higher than TNA's. They're on TNT.
That much higher though? That much higher?
Definitely. I mean,
Okay.
TNA is not doing. I mean, AEW's ratings are definitely down from what they were, and there's a problem there. I mean, that's a whole other separate conversation. Their attendance is not great. The attendance, I mean, I don't know what TNA does for a typical taping. I don't know how much higher the attendance is, but the ratings, I mean, they're on an actual network. They're on Max. I mean, they just re-signed the Max for a lot of money, making the company, I believe, profitable now going forward. I don't know if TNA is not profitable necessarily, but, you know, they don't have the same reach that AEW does. They did on Spike TV. They were doing far more ratings. They used to do like a fucking million people a week, dude, 10 years ago, but TV's different now. WWE, I mean, NXT doesn't do a million people. So by that standard, TNA was doing higher ratings than NXT does today. But yeah, I just think with the AEW stuff, no, I don't think they're trying to build up TNA as a number 2, because if they did, then that would make them a direct competitor, and then they're not going to work with them anymore. So it's not really an anti-AEW thing. I mean, it was the same thing again 10 years ago when TNA was an actual competitor and people were leaving WWE to go to TNA, more so like 15 years ago, not really in recent years. They never mentioned TNA. They would make fun of TNA. They would try to spite TNA. They destroyed them on Monday nights when TNA tried to go head to head, all that other shit. I mean, crazy to see how much times have changed in that respect. But yeah, TNA will benefit from this, but AEW, their issues are their own thing. And I think they're going to remain number 2 regardless.
Penta debuted on Raw on Monday. We briefly spoke about it on the post show on Monday, but it was towards the tail end of the show. But want to spend a little more time on that. So, what'd you make of Penta debuting and the promo afterwards, and like how they're really building him up to be like this big star coming up?
I loved it. I mean, as someone who's followed his career since his Lucha Underground days a decade ago, following him through their TNA, AEW, and now here, it's cool to see him on a big stage. I honestly never really thought they would bring him in, especially in a Vince McMahon run WWE. And I think they had the opportunity to bring them in 6 years ago when when AEW first started. They were, I think, one of the first teams signed to the promotion aside from the Young Bucks, if not the first team. They were at one of those first pep rallies they did in early 2019. So they could have gone to WWE. Thankfully, they did not, because had they did, they would have had a great run in NXT, I'm sure. But on the main roster, they would have been fucking cooked under Vince McMahon. They would have just died a death and just would have been completely ruined. So I think the timing is perfect. He got a great reaction on Monday, did Penta. He's keeping the Penta name. He's not Penta El Cero Miedo, but he's just Penta, which is totally fine. It's shorter. It's easier to say. The merch is apparently doing really well. I thought the post-match promo was really good. The match itself was excellent with Chad Gable, who was the perfect opponent for Penta in his first match. Didn't have to be a squash. They had an actual competitive match. A lot of selling for Penta, which a lot of people are, just myself included, not used to seeing because they weren't doing a whole lot of selling in AEW. And I thought it was the perfect introduction for Penta in WWE, honestly. And I hope that's a sign that they see him as a star that he is. I mean, the guy's not 25 years old. He's on the older side. I mean, he's closer to the end of his career than the beginning. But milk what you can out of the guy while you can. I feel like he's perfect for WWE because he's a really good wrestler. But honestly, just he looks fucking cool. Like he has a badass look about him. And I feel like they can capitalize on that with merch and stuff like that. So with the WWE presentation, the WWE machine behind him, I feel like he can be very successful, and he's off to a strong start.
Well, I guess I got Graham tied up a little bit.
Oh, can you hear me?
There you go. Hey, we got you now.
Okay. It looked fun on my end, so I thought I didn't get interrupted. But
we good.
No, I was just saying it was the perfect introduction, and he was off to he's already off to a strong start in WWE, which is encouraging to see.
Now, speaking of leaving AEW, his boy Phoenix, he can't leave no time soon, right? Another year or so, maybe, or.
To my knowledge, I mean, at the very least, later on this year. I mean, it might be, if it's next year, that's just fucking criminal. To leave the guy at home and not even use him for a year and a half, that's just stupid. I mean, I understand he signed a contract, but they added on injury time. If it's another year, if it's later this year, that's still dumb, but it's like, okay, you can wait another 6 months. If it's like 365 days at least, that's awful. I mean, just use the guy on TV, have him job out every week. I don't know. It's better than having him sit at home. I mean, maybe unless he wants to. That's pretty dumb to me. So, yeah, we don't have an exact date. Hopefully it is around the summer, if not maybe fall of 2025.
And I'm seeing online somewhere that Aleister Black might be out of AEW as well, probably sooner than later. If that holds firm, how soon are we talking about? And I think I have a pretty good idea where he might end up. So I think the opportunities are endless for Aleister Black. I think Hunter would want him back. Again, I don't see AEW as much to see like what how they use him or utilize him. So, one, do you think he's out? Two, do you think he goes back? And three, what are the possibilities of who he might go up against?
I do think he's out. I think the writing's been on the wall for a long time now based on comments that he's made, how they've used him, which isn't really, they haven't really used him at all. I've seen reports recently that he didn't want to do the job. I mean, if that's true, yeah, that's a problem, but that's more on the company. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're the boss, and this goes for anyone really in that company or even WWE, but you just don't hear this shit about WWE though, about like, oh, I don't want to do the job. Unless you're like Brock Lesnar or something, which he is not. All these other guys are not. Then it's just silly to me. Like the top stars can maybe get away with that. And even then, we don't even really hear about that. In AEW, I feel like we hear this shit all the time. Miro, same thing. Didn't want to lose. Didn't want to be here. Then you let him go. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Why continue paying him to be on your roster if you don't like, and also if you don't really see him as a priority? Same thing with Ricky Starks. They have no plans for Ricky Starks. Tony Khan knows that he's headed to WWE when his contract is up. But if you think he's such an asset to WWE and you don't want to let him go from your company, then just use him on your own television show. You know what I mean? Like if you think he's going to be such a net positive for WWE and you don't want them to get their hands on him, then use him yourself. It kind of feels like you're just gatekeeping toys. Like you have a new toy that you play with and you get bored of it and then you just hold on to it and you don't want to share it because you don't want other people to get their hands on it. That's just silly to me. I know you don't want to set a precedent of letting every disgruntled talent go, but if they're just going to be sitting there doing nothing like Ray Phoenix for a year, that's just stupid. At least bring him in to lose or do something. I mean, you don't have to push him, but that's just ridiculous to me. I mean, WWE was guilty of that for a long time too. So I can totally understand. It doesn't, it goes both ways. I do think he's on his way out. I do think he's headed back to WWE. I feel like he's wanted to be back in WWE for a long time now, especially since his wife works there again. His wife got fired 5 years ago, and it seemed like she obviously was brought back, even when Vince McMahon was still there. And it sounded like he was happy about her being brought back. He knew she was being brought back, and he wasn't really being used in WWE either at that point. His whole main roster run was completely fucking ruined under Vince McMahon. And then as soon as they brought her back, they fired him. So he went to AEW, it's just a whole fucking mess. I feel like under Triple H, he was only the only person that may have proven that he can use Aleister Black to his full potential in NXT. I feel like he has a shot at success in WWE. I mean, it's not guaranteed. He's older now. That was a while ago. That was 2017, 2018. Yeah. It's years later. There's other talent that should be prioritized over Aleister Black. I don't know if he's going to win a world championship necessarily. But he has a fighting chance. I feel like he can come back again with the presentation behind him, give him back his old music, please. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's a big part of the presentation. I feel like he has a shot. As far as what he does, I push him on his own. He doesn't have the House of Black anymore. I like the group, but they kind of bogged him down in AEW because not everyone needs to be in a group. I feel like he's a guy in WWE that can do his own thing and be showcased as a single star. I've seen people say maybe put him with his wife, Zelina Vega. I mean, maybe. I mean, she's with the LWO, and that's not doing a whole lot for her right now. But down the road, I would just bring him back on his own for now and push him as a star, hopefully on SmackDown or something. I mean, they don't need the depth on Raw or SmackDown. They have the talent, some of which they're not doing shit with right now. But he's a guy that I feel like they could use. So I'm all for him going back to WWE. I'm not saying he will be. Did you lose me again? Let me know when you can hear me.
Where we at? There you go.
Okay. I don't know why you keep losing me. That's weird. But I was just saying that it's not guaranteed that he goes back to WWE and becomes an automatic success story. But there's a chance. It's a better chance than he has currently in AEW, where they've demonstrated they have no real plans for him and only see him at a certain level. We'll see if that's the case under Triple H and WWE.
I see him and Damian Priest like that's the perfect match right out the gate, do a return. Does that mean Priest goes back to being a bad guy? No, I'm just saying, like, hey, if Priest ain't got nothing to do for WrestleMania, and we're talking like 3 months from now, can we get Aleister Black back in the company in the next 3 months? They kind of share the same similarities, the darkness and the gothic and all that rock and roll shit. Like, all right, so boom, right out the gate, Aleister Black, Damian Priest, WrestleMania. Can we get something like that on that kind of realm?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that'd be the perfect match for Priest and Mania because they just blew off the Finn Balor feud on Monday, as they should have. That ran its course a long time ago. So he's not working with the Judgment Day. Hopefully at WrestleMania is Damian Priest. Doesn't leave a whole lot of compelling, likely realistic options. It feels like everyone else is busy. Owens and Orton might have a match. He's definitely not facing either of the world champions at Mania. And even if he does, I don't really want to see him and Gunther again. I don't want to see him and Cody Rhodes. We've seen a whole lot. I don't really feel like that makes sense anyway. I don't think he's going to win the Rumble. Yeah, I feel like him and Aleister Black would be a nice mid-card match for Mania. I mean, him and Nakamura, maybe Priest and Nakamura, which they've also done before, not like as a full-fledged feud, but they've done the match. Maybe, but I don't really want Nakamura going into Mania as United States champion. But yeah, if Aleister Black is free in the coming months, the initial report from PW Insider was that his deal, he won't be free until February or March.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect.
I mean, it would be perfect. That would eliminate him from a Rumble appearance. I mean, it would be awesome if it was in the fucking Rumble. That would be the best way to bring him back. But then there was a follow-up, I think from Fightful, and it could be wrong. This might have been not accurate, that they somehow worked out like an early release where he could be free sooner, which is funny that they would do that because it seems like they're not doing that for anyone else. So it would be funny if they did that for Malachi Black. But, it could be in the Rumble. Regardless, like you said, that would put him in line whether he's free now or in a month or even in March. WrestleMania is in April 19th and 20th. That's not for another 3 months. So it sounds like he could be free by that point. If they wanted to, he could be involved on the road to WrestleMania and have a match at Mania. I would. I don't know if they would. Honestly, I feel like it's more likely if they do bring him back, and they will, they would bring him back on the post-WrestleMania Raw. I feel like that's probably where he would start up again if they don't have any plans for him on the road to WrestleMania. At this point, it seems like to me most of the matches are probably configured for Mania, and if they haven't figured out yet, he probably won't be at Mania. But I hope he is, because a match with Priest would be very cool.
I think one quick point on Tony Khan AEW, and I think you said the perfect analogy. Is that when you said new toys, new action figures? Yeah, I got Aleister Black, I got Miro, I got all the I got Sasha Banks, I got them all.
He's hoarding talent,
and Jericho. I got all the talent. I got Cody Rhodes, I got CM Punk, I got Jay Cargill, I got all the toys in the box. And then like, it's like as a kid, after a while, you play with a toy for like a week or two and you get bored. Oh, next toy. Oh, next toy. Then you're like, dang, I got all these toys over here. Hasn't been played in so long. What do I do with them? Do I throw them out? Do I give it away? Or the toy gonna feel like, damn, man, if you don't want me, I'll go somewhere else to be wanted. And I think that's where a lot of these, because you go back to Cody, you go back to Punk, you go back to Jade, you go back to now Penta, you're going now to Possible Black. It's a totally different shift of what it was 5 years ago, where everybody wanted to go there, and now 6 years later, everybody wants to leave, and it's just a weird. And again, we're not here to shit on them or whatever, but it's just weird how the tides have changed. When years ago, the hot shit was AEW.
Yep.
Now it's reverse, and everybody wants, not saying they want to go back to where they came from, but it's like, if you're not being utilized correctly or storyline wise, or don't feel like I'm a toy and just collect me and put me on the fucking counter, what am I doing here? So I think you said the perfect analogy for Tony Khan and AEW.
Yeah, I just feel like that's how it is, and I hate to say that because, like you said, it's weird. I know the business will shift, and AEW might be the hot thing in a couple more years. I don't know, but when they first started up, everyone wanted to go there. But there's so many different factors, though. And it's not even as if like, oh, AEW is the problem here. They do have a lot of problems they're dealing with. But I think the biggest thing that did them in, that Tony Khan has proven that he's not able to compete with, was Triple H taking over the creative reins of WWE. I mean, it was honestly not all downhill from there, because they had their own issues. The brawl out shit happened with Punk. He can't be there's so many different problems there, but he can't be a boss when he needs to be a boss. He wants to be everyone's friend. And a lot of talent have said that. And a lot of talent get lost in the shuffle. There's a lot of talent that get lost in the shuffle in WWE too. But it seems like they can put their foot down. Even when it was Vince in charge, you didn't really hear a lot of these stories about, talent doing what they want to do. I watch the product right now in AEW. There is a lot of good stuff that happens. They have a lot of great matches. Their pay-per-views are probably consistently better than WWE's, specifically from an in-ring standpoint.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so. I feel like the WWE pay-per-views are very fun. They have better crowds sometimes. But AEW, I hate the 4-hour shows with like fucking 15 matches. I hate that shit. But at least they have consistent wrestling. The WWE PLEs are fun and all. They have 4 to 5 matches, which I don't really necessarily hate. But they have like fucking 10-minute commercials, the 30-minute video packages.
Hey, World Wrestling Entertainment. It's entertainment.
It is entertainment, but I'm not talking about the entrances, dude. I'm talking about like, is it not stupid that in between every match they have like 10 minutes worth of commercials on pay-per-view? Even up until before recently, they did not do that. Pay-per-views are where you went to not get commercials. If they do promote their own shit, that's fine. But I watch these fucking pay-per-views. Even if you have the commercial-free version of Peacock, you're still getting like 5 minutes of fucking WWE Superstar video packages. It's nothing that has to do with the match. If it was the match, that's cool. But I'm just watching commercials for 10 minutes. What the fuck is this? And they just drag shit out and they replays. I enjoy the WWE pay-per-views, but I'm just calling a spade here. They got to cut the filler shit. It's ridiculous. They have 3.5-hour shows and you only have 4 matches. It's like, the fuck is that?
Well, it's entertainment. It's storytelling.
Commercials are not storytelling.
That's where the money coming in. The more hotter you are, the more money, the more sponsors want to come in and put this
correct.
shit on TV.
I feel like there's a happy medium there, though. I don't feel like they need as much sponsorship as they do for all of this shit. Yeah, the money is there. Yeah, they're hot products, so they're capitalizing on. Even having like Cinnamon Toast Crunch on the banner of the ring, I don't give a fuck about that. They could do that. I don't give a shit. But like when I'm sitting through 10 minutes of commercials, it's like, this is what I watch Raw for. Raw, honestly, at this point has less commercials than the pay-per-views do. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
it's stupid. But anay, with AEW,
do you like that? Do you like that? The Raw has the sponsor logos now in the ring, like how WCW used to have it back in the day. Would have like now there's Netflix, there's Fortnite, there's this. Are you a fan of that? Or are you more like old school?
I'm old school, but it bothered me. I'm going to be honest with you. It bothered me maybe for like 5 minutes. I saw it. I thought it looked silly. And then honestly, I got over it like immediately. At this point, I don't even care. The Fortnite thing being in the middle, I thought was dumb. But on Raw this week, they didn't have the Fortnite logo in the middle. It was the logos around the ring and nothing in the center. So that's fine with me. But I forgot what my original point was. But just as far as AEW is concerned, they have to figure out like just telling better. What I was going to say was I watched their shows. And I can tell you, a lot of their top performers are doing what they want to do and not as what's best for business, quote unquote. Like the John Moxley shit that's going on right now is completely, apparently his creative brainchild, and it fucking sucks. Okay? Chris Jericho's out there every week doing shit, and he probably thinks it's so entertaining. It fucking sucks. And I guarantee you, if this was WWE, if he was pitching this shit to whoever, they would be like, bro, no one likes this. And it's fine if you want to, like, wrestlers having their own creative ideas is cool. But if it doesn't work, you fucking pivot. When fans are like, bro, this shit is garbage, you need to move on from this, then you fucking listen to the fans. I feel like WWE at this point is doing a better job of doing that, shockingly, than AEW. They're doing shit that no one gives a fuck about. And they're just, not that they don't tell stories, they don't tell compelling enough stories, and they're just not telling enough of them, period. That's their biggest problem. And Triple H is doing a better job of that. Not across the board. There's some shit I don't give a fuck about, or it's just not being well done. But overall, I look forward to more Raw and SmackDown than I do Dynamite. It just feels like a lot of their programming just exists, and people are just there. Mercedes is doing better right now, but like for a while, she was not having a great run. Her promos, I don't give a fuck about. Her matches are even really weren't that great for a little bit. That's gotten better, but there's people that are just on the roster. They're just existing. They're not doing shit with them. It's like Malachi Black hasn't wrestled the singles match in fucking 6 months? Come on, dude. At least put him on Raw or SmackDown where he can not have a massive direction, but he could at least be utilized more.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a whole lot you could say there. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Like, why is Mercedes Moné TBS champion? Why isn't she like not?
That's fine. She's undefeated, but I know what you're saying. Honestly,
Yeah,
they have a great
TBS champion, not the main women's champion heavyweight. Come on.
To be fair, I mean, that's their equivalent of the women's world title. I mean, they don't even really treat that like a mid-card belt. It's not like it's the tag titles or something. I mean, it's she's still got a championship. Their belts don't mean much because they have so many of them. WWE is a lot too.
But TBS is like, it's like the TV title back in the day. Like, yeah, you're a champion, but like, you're just TV. You ain't getting US and the world heavyweight champion. Like, nah, she's been there for so long, at least over a year now, and she ain't the main. Listen, I don't watch it as much, so maybe I'm missing something. Has she even had a title shot at the world championship? I don't know.
No, she hasn't. But I will say this though: at least as a TBS champion, yes, it's not their main women's title, but at least they're giving her like legitimate competition. I would agree with you if she was the mid-card champion and they were feeding her like lower level people I didn't give a fuck about. But she's actually out there having like much better matches than the other women's world champion, who is Mariah May, who's very good.
Mm-hmm.
But, she's out there having better matches with Chris Statlander, who's one of their biggest, not names in the promotion, but one of their top talents in that division. Britt Baker, the match wasn't good, but she's one of their top talents and has been since day one. Willow Nightingale, among other women as well. So at least she's working with top talent and isn't just like working underneath people that are below her. So, I mean, yeah, I would put it on the same level as their other women's championship, but I can understand your point though.
Yeah. My last point before I let you go, a few things. They're doing the WrestleMania press event in New Orleans during Super Bowl weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I like what they did last year.
Yeah.
In Vegas for Super Bowl. So we all know what happened there. They're gonna do it. They're gonna run it back. We'll see how it goes. I think it's gonna be early February 8th or some shit like that. So we'll see what happens with that. Am I missing anything? Anything good, cool going on SmackDown tonight?
What is going on tonight? What did they advertise?
Great question.
Oh, Bayley and Tiffany, I know, are fighting for the WWE Women's Championship, so that should be good. And Bayley popped up. Obviously, she was on Raw on Monday in San Jose, but she was also on NXT the next night, interrupting Roxanne Perez. And she made mention of the fact that, Roxanne Perez is kind of, she didn't say use the word floundering, but she made a comment about her. You're going to be all alone here in NXT, blah, blah, blah. I'll be winning the championship on SmackDown. Kind of tipped me off to the idea that maybe Roxanne cost her the championship tonight. Bayley is not beating Tiffany Stratton, but how does she lose to Tiffany? Is it clean? Does Nia Jax cost her the loss or cost her the win? I think it might be Roxanne Perez, and it might be their way of calling up Roxanne Perez, and that's her first feud in the main roster is with Bayley, which I would not be opposed to at all. So, yeah, that's a match to look forward to tonight. As far as anything else, I'm not sure. I think there's a couple tag team matches announced, but the main thing is Bayley and Tiffany. That might be the main event. The show is more of it's harder to get through now that it's 3 hours. Hopefully that ends fairly soon because I just feel like 3 hours, especially for SmackDown, is not sustainable.
I did see a new Charlotte Flair promo. I did see that, which she's working out on the beach.
It's coming, dude. She's coming. Yeah.
The queen is coming back.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sitting here complaining about it. You'll find a lot of people that are upset about it, but listen, dude, I'm not like Charlotte Flair's #1 big fan or anything, but she's great. She's been out for a long time. So anyone who says when she comes back that starts complaining, it's like, dude, she's been gone for long enough. Yeah. Not that she's going to feel super fresh. It's Charlotte Flair. She's been doing the same shtick for a decade. Yeah. But maybe she comes back with Andrade and they kind of play off of their real life marriage. I mean, that's something. Her and Tiffany also, by the way, would be a fresh feud. Even if Charlotte wins, which I'm not exactly in favor of, that's still a fresh feud and it could be a really good match. So there's a lot of stuff you could do with her when she comes back. Her and Nia, Queen of the Ring versus the Queen. That's another potential direction they can go in. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she does when she comes back.
It could it could be Charlotte and Tiffy time at WrestleMania. That always a possibility depending on when Charlotte does come back. Do you think she pops up at the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really big possibility. Her and Becky both should be due back any day now. So do they blow off both returns in the Rumble match itself?
That might be.
I don't know.
Well, Charlotte's been out longer than Becky.
Yeah, much longer. Yeah.
I think if you have to give a spot, I think it'll be Charlotte. Now, does she win?
She could.
We don't know. She could, because if she wants Tiffy time, listen. Do you want her and Rhea to run it back?
No.
Okay.
No. Listen, they have great matches, but they finished that story. I would not revisit that. I think they ended it on a perfect note 2 years ago at Mania.
So it'll be her and Tiffy time.
Yeah, I think she's coming back and facing Tiffany at Mania. That's my prediction.
What
Yeah.
could be cool at some point is getting, like you mentioned, her and Andrade against Tiffy and Kaiser would be dope because this real life relationship on both sides.
Yeah.
So that'd be nice.
Yeah. That's something they could do. I don't know if they want to put Seth and Becky back together. I don't really want to see Charlotte and Becky again. And Andrade, I don't know if they're pushing him on the level of a Seth Rollins, but that's
Yo, did you see? There's a photo going on.
Yeah, it's the CM Punk basketball game, or not CM Punk, Seth Rollins at the basketball game.
Yeah,
Becky
with
Lynch
Becky.
and a date.
It's Becky Lynch and date. Like,
what is with the Seth Rollins slander?
And then someone put a photo of CM Punk was backstage with Tech Crew.
Yeah, that's funny.
Dark Queen Charlotte Flair is coming. I wouldn't mind that. Charlotte Flair had been out longer than Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and right.
No, Alexa Bliss has been out long.
She's been out for a hot minute. Alexa Bliss
has been gone for 2 years.
She took a break.
She got pregnant and she had the baby, and she's been taking care of the baby. She had the baby like well over a year ago too. So
she had a kid. That's why.
Yeah, she had a kid, but she's just she's still getting in shape coming back, and there was no rush coming back. So
yeah, but look who's missing: Flair, Asuka, Alexa, Becky. That's
I think. I don't know what Asuka's injury update is. I think Alexa Bliss could be back in the Rumble, and I think Charlotte could be back in the Rumble. Becky, I think, could be back on Raw.
Yeah.
Either way, I think all 4 of them should be back very soon. Asuka is the only one I'm not really entirely sure about.
My last point, Graham, before I get you out of here. Bad Bunny wants to come back to risk his life.
I saw that, yeah.
So, I mean, we just saw Travis Scott on Raw. I just seen Action Bronson with Ariel Helwani talk about he wants to get back in the ring, and Travis Bad Bunny. Come on, let's do it. I sold out Arthur Ashe Stadium with an AEW Grand Slam. So there's a lot of musical talents that want to get in the ring. And do you see Bad Bunny getting back in the ring? And then 2, at what capacity? Because it's what do you do with Bad Bunny? Do you get Logan Paul to get in the ring with these guys? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I feel like Logan Paul and him could have a match. I mean, I don't really. Both are going to be gone the next day, so it's really just an attraction match. But I think there was like legit bad blood there at one point between those two. I think they had some sort of internet feud, or someone talked shit about someone else. I'm pretty sure there's like actual history there between the two outside of WWE.
Yeah, but no, I think they were downplaying Mexico. I don't know.
That was debunked. Yeah, Bad Bunny. There was a report a couple weeks ago. It wasn't a report. It was a fake tweet that said, "Oh, backlash confirmed from Mexico." It was a fake Twitter account. He probably saw that. Maybe not that exact tweet, but saw someone say it and thought it was real and didn't get the memo that it wasn't real. So that's why he mentioned that.
That'd be dope.
No, that would that'd be awesome. Yeah, especially with Penta now. They have so much great Hispanic talent. I mean, Bad Bunny is someone they could tap into, obviously, but they have the entire LWO that includes one of the greatest, if not the greatest luchador of all time in Rey Mysterio. But between them, Andrade, Dragon Lee, who's in LWO, Legado del Fantasma, Santos Escobar, and now Penta. I mean, that's amazing. And not even counting some of the women as well. They have amazing depth. Probably now more than ever of Hispanic talent in WWE.
Hey, Graham, don't forget Dirty Dom, all right?
And of course, Dominic Mysterio, too.
Year of Dirty Dom.
Of course, him and his mustache.
That's right. Dirty Dom, I guarantee, Intercontinental Champion or U.S. Champion this year.
I could see it. It's a good prediction. I don't know if it's bold because I could see it happening, but no, that's a good one. I could see Penta and Dom. So that could be a Mania match right there.
I could see Penta and Logan Paul. You want to get funky?
Yeah. Mexican Destroyer to Logan Paul. Hey, sign me up. Sign me up.
Graham, am I missing anything else? If not, we're gonna wrap this up.
I don't think so. I think we got everything.
All right. Okay. So SmackDown tonight. We'll see what happens. So hopefully Kenny and I would do the post show. So Noob, if you're watching, Kenny, my boy Kenny and I will probably do the post show after SmackDown, depending on what time it ends. I'm working tonight, but if I can get my ass home in time, we can get locked and loaded by 11:15. So Graham, if everything is off the table, appreciate you, man. Love you, man. Find Graham on social media, Twitter at WrestleRant. Again, great work for both Beacher Report and Fan-Sided DDT. Myself, Randy J. Cruz, RENDY, little JCRUZ. A podcast on YouTube.com/Cruise Control Podcast. Go ahead, download, rate, comment, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Show some love and support for your boys on the program. Also on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on Amazon Music whenever I get a chance to upload it. Again, thank you, Grant. Appreciate you. I know we'll tap in soon.
Sounds good, boss. I'll catch you in the next one.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too. Adios.
All right, bet.